It was supposed to be a weekend getaway. 4 of us, me, Jason, my girlfriend Sarah, my best friend Mike, and his sister Alyssa, decided we needed a break from the chaos of the city. We found a cabin on the edge of Maple Ridge Forest, a few hours' drive from town. Isolated, peaceful, surrounded by towering pine trees and the kind of quiet that made you hear your own thoughts. The plan was simple: hike, eat, drink, disconnect from phones, and maybe gather around the fire at night to tell stories. But we didn't need stories. The forest had one of its own. The first sign that something was off came from the old woman at the gas station just before the last turn into the woods. "You going into Maple Ridge?" she asked, staring at us while Sarah filled up the tank. Her voice was dry like leaves crunching under boots. "Yeah," I said, trying to be polite. She stared for a second too long. "Don't go too far off the trail." Mike raised an eyebrow. "Why's that?" She looked at each of us in turn. "The forest remembers. Especially near the graveyard." I laughed, thinking she was just being dramatic. "Graveyard? In the middle of the forest?" Her eyes didn't flinch. "Used to be a settlement back in the 1800s. Burned to the ground. Nothing left but bones." Alyssa shifted uncomfortably. "That sounds like a perfect horror movie setup." The woman didn't blink. "Ain't no movie. People still disappear out there." We smiled politely and drove off, dismissing it as a classic backwoods tale told to freak out tourists. We should have listened. The cabin was old but clean. No Wi-Fi, barely any phone signal. Just the smell of pine needles and the sound of wind brushing through the trees. We unpacked, lit the fire, and played cards until night crept in. On the second day, Mike suggested we explore deeper into the forest. He had downloaded an offline map, and there was a trail that supposedly led to a scenic overlook. But about 2 hours into the hike, we got lost. The path had faded. The trees closed in. The map didn't match what we saw. Then we found it. The graveyard. It was almost hidden, sunken stones, crooked and covered in moss, with names nearly erased by time. No fence, no sign. Just patches of disturbed earth and stones shaped like crosses. At the center stood a large tree, gnarled and blackened, like it had been scorched by lightning. Around it were symbols carved into the bark, strange, twisting patterns like runes or letters from a language no one should know. "I don't like this," Alyssa whispered. Mike knelt by one of the gravestones. "These are old. Like 1800s for real. Look at this one, Margaret Yates, 1814 to 1832. That's a kid." We stood in silence. A cold breeze passed through, though the trees weren't swaying. Then Sarah said, "Do you hear that?" We listened. It was faint. A whisper. Not in any direction. All around us. Like the wind itself was speaking. "Nope," I said. "We're heading back." But we weren't alone. Not anymore. That night, we tried to shake it off, blaming exhaustion and imagination. But around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound outside the cabin, like someone was dragging a heavy chain across the porch. I looked out the window. Nothing. Until something moved between the trees. A shape. Tall. Unnaturally tall. Like a man stretched far beyond normal proportions. I blinked. It was gone. The next morning, I asked if anyone else had seen or heard anything. Mike looked pale. "I saw footprints," he said. "Right outside my window. Barefoot. But they weren't right. Toes too long. Too many." Alyssa wanted to leave. Sarah agreed. We packed quickly, but Mike couldn't find the car keys. He was sure he had put them on the counter. We tore the place apart. Nothing. Then Alyssa screamed. The keys were in the fireplace. Inside a sealed envelope. The paper was old, crumbling, but written in fresh ink. You entered hallowed ground. Now you belong to the forest. We left immediately. Or tried to. The GPS was gone. No signal. The road we came in on was swallowed by trees that hadn't been there before. Like the forest had shifted. Closed in. We drove in circles. Every path led back to the same tree. The blackened one from the graveyard. That night, the forest made sure we knew it was watching. Scratches on the walls. Thuds on the roof. Voices whispering our names. Mike was the first to break. He grabbed a flashlight and ran into the woods, shouting, "I'm not afraid of you." He didn't come back. We searched until dawn. Only found his flashlight. Bent in half. Teeth marks on the handle. Not human. The next day, Sarah stopped speaking. Just stood near the window. Staring at the trees. "I hear her," she whispered once. "She's under the roots. She's been waiting." That night, she walked out barefoot. By the time I noticed, she was gone. We found her the next morning, sitting beside a grave. Smiling. Her eyes were white. Completely white. Alyssa and I tried to run. We didn't care where, just away. The forest didn't let us. We'd walk straight for hours, only to end up back at the cabin. Every time we passed that cursed graveyard, it felt louder. The whispers. The wind. The names on the gravestone started to change. First to names we recognized. Then our names. It's been 7 days. I'm alone now. Alyssa disappeared last night. I heard her scream once. Then silence. I tried to dig up one of the graves. Desperate for answers. Beneath the soil wasn't a coffin. It was a tunnel. Leading down. I don't remember climbing in. But now I'm here. And I see her. The woman from the grave, Margaret Yates. Not a child anymore. Her skin is paper. Her limbs bend wrong. Her mouth is too wide. She's smiling. And she whispers, "Now you understand." Margaret's eyes were empty pits, but they stared into me like they could see everything, my thoughts, my fear, my future. Her smile never wavered, though her teeth looked more like sharpened stone than bone. She stepped forward in the tunnel, joints cracking. I backed away, but the path behind me had changed. Where there had been packed dirt and roots, now there was stone. Old stone. Like the inside of a crypt. The air was stale, but there was no smell. Not of decay. Not of rot. Just emptiness. "You disturbed the soil," she hissed, voice like dry leaves scratching against glass. "Now you sleep beneath it." I turned and ran, scraping my shoulder against the tunnel wall. As I moved, torches lit one by one, on their own, casting flickering shadows across the ancient stone. On either side of the corridor were alcoves carved into the walls. In each one, a body. Not skeletons. Not corpses. Something in between. Their eyes followed me as I ran. Some whispered. Others opened their mouths in silent screams. Their tongues were missing. Then I saw it, Mike. He was standing at the end of the corridor, eyes dull, mouth stitched shut with black thread. His skin was cracked, pale, flaking. "Mike!" I shouted, my voice breaking. He raised one hand slowly and pointed behind me. I turned. Margaret was inches from my face. "Now you understand," she repeated, her voice layered with dozens of other voices beneath it. I screamed. I woke up in the cabin. Daylight. Sunlight filtered through the cracks in the curtains. Birds chirped. For a moment, I believed it had all been a nightmare. A vivid hallucination brought on by stress, fear, and lack of sleep. Then I turned over in bed and saw Sarah. She was lying next to me, eyes open, smiling. Her eyes were still pure white. "Good morning," she said, her voice not hers. I fell out of bed, crawled backwards. "What the hell is going on?" She sat up mechanically, tilting her head. "You shouldn't have dug. That broke the pact." "What pact?" She blinked. "Leave the dead alone. Or join them." I grabbed my backpack, keys, phone, anything I could find, and ran. Outside, the forest had changed again. The trees were darker, thicker. Like they had aged 100 years overnight. The car was gone. Or maybe it had never been there. I ran. 4 hours. No path, no compass. Just terror. At some point, I collapsed. I don't remember how long I was out. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in a room, candlelit, circular, stone walls covered in carvings. I recognized some of the symbols from the blackened tree. Others were new. Older. Angrier. I was tied to a wooden chair, thick rope cutting into my wrists. I wasn't alone. There were people. Sort of. They circled me, faces hidden by hoods. Their hands were gray and ashen, fingers too long. Each one held something, a candle, a bone, a page of something written in blood. One of them stepped forward. She lowered her hood. Alyssa. Her eyes were hollow. I tried to resist, she whispered. But she's stronger. She held up the bone in her hand. This was Mike. I started crying. Not from sadness. From the sheer, overwhelming wrongness of it all. They began to chant. Words I couldn't understand. But I felt them. In my bones. In my blood. The air grew colder. Then the walls began to bleed. Thick, black blood. From the cracks in the stone. I screamed. I woke up again. In the forest. Beside the black tree. Night again. Alone. But something was different. There was a trail now. One I hadn't seen before. Lined with torches. I walked it. Slowly. It led me to a clearing. At the center stood the woman from the gas station. The old one who had warned us. She was humming a lullaby. Stirring a pot over an open flame. I told you not to go too far off the trail, she said without looking up. You knew, I choked. You knew this would happen. She nodded. And I know you're the only one who might survive it. Why me? She finally looked at me. Because you're not like them. You've seen the other side, and it didn't take you. She handed me a dagger. The blade was black. Cold. Carved with runes. You have one chance, she said. Stab the heart beneath the tree. Before sunrise. Or you stay here. Forever. I ran. The forest fought back. Roots grabbed my ankles. Shadows chased me. The whispers turned to screams. I reached the tree. Dawn was just breaking. I fell to my knees, dug with my hands. The soil hissed. Deeper. Faster. Then I hit something solid. Wood. A box. I tore it open. Inside was a heart. Still beating. Black as coal. Screaming silently. I raised the dagger. Something grabbed my arm. It was Margaret. Her skin was cracking, flaking off like bark. Don't, she said. You'll free them all. I don't care, I spat. I drove the dagger down. The heart burst into ash. So did Margaret. The ground trembled. Light exploded from the cracks in the soil. I woke up in a hospital. They said hikers found me near the road, unconscious, dehydrated. No one else was with me. The police searched the forest. No cabin. No graveyard. No Margaret. No Sarah. No Mike. No Alyssa. Just me. And the symbols burned into my forearm. That was 6 months ago. I moved to a city across the country. I don't sleep much. Sometimes I wake up and see the black tree outside my window. Just for a second. Sometimes I hear whispers. Sometimes I see footprints on the floor in ashes. I don't know if I escaped. Or if I brought something with me. But one thing is certain. The forest never forgets.